Okay, good morning, all. Right, good morning, all. Just making sure everything's working. Sure it is. Okay, good morning. Good morning, Shaz. Okay, London Assembly. Sadiq Khan. Question time. Okay. I don't know if anyone saw the clip last time that I put up. I believe her name was Susan Hall. Literally ripped into him. So this should be a good watch. I will catch up with you chat in a minute. Let me bear with me a second because I'm losing the. This is a bit last minute, I know. I need to sort out the title, etc. But I hope everyone's well, keeping warm. They're going to be starting at 10 o'clock, so as soon as they start, we'll be switching over, okay? And I'll catch up with everyone in the chat. Um, right, we're starting. So we're going to go over and I'm going to mute up, okay? Catch you in the chat in a bit. Just to let you know the audio is on, okay? We're just waiting for them to start. Thank you very much all for joining. If you can all hit that like button, it'd be much appreciated. Yeah, good morning all. Right, sorry, yeah, there's no sound on it at the moment. Apologies for the quality. The video quality is what they're putting out. Would you expect, cheapskates? So they should be starting at any minute. I think they're just waiting for a couple of more people to arrive. And then we'll have all the audio going for you. And hopefully Susan Hall is there, which I think I can see her on the right with the blue dress. I think that's her, and hopefully she will have both guns and gunning for him again. Good morning everyone in the chat. I am here. I did see you. Sorry I didn't reply. But good morning to you all. Hope you're all well and keeping warm. Right, I'm going to shut up, and hopefully we should have some audio on this. Here we go.
The London Assembly is the voice of London, composed of 25 members elected at the same time as the Mayor in order to hold him to account, scrutinise his policies, investigate matters of importance to Londoners. Can I welcome the Mayor, members, officers and the public here in the gallery and watching on the webcast. This is Mayor's Question Time meeting of the Assembly, which means that all members are invited to attend and ask questions of the Mayor. In case of emergency and any need to exit the building, guests seated in the public gallery should follow security staff and Assembly members should follow the meeting clerk. Members are reminded that any electronic devices should not be placed in front of the microphones, which must be turned on to speak and turned off once finished. Can I now ask the clerk to confirm any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies today from Assembly members Desai and Small-Edwards.
Thank you. Firstly, I am sorry to inform the Assembly of the recent death of Ed Welsh. Ed was the London Assembly's head of communications in the early days of the GLA and was very much part of the core staffing body who helped the Assembly to get up and running. On behalf of the Assembly, we recognise his service to London Regional Government and will write to pass on our condolences to his husband, Tony, and their 2 sons. Since we met for the London Assembly plenary last week, the Budget Performance Committee met to review the GLA Mayor's budget submission as part of the annual budget scrutiny process. The Planning and Regeneration Committee continued its investigation into the pros and cons of mid-rise developments in London. The Health Committee launched its report into men's mental health in London at City Hall. And the Police and Crime Committee held a question and answer with the Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime. Can I welcome to the meeting the GLA apprentices that are in the audiences that are attending this meeting, if they've arrived or about to. Thank you very much. I can see you at the back. There's no hiding in the chamber. MBA students from the University of Law and Business School and students from Cheam High School. Can I also welcome members of the Sydenham Society who are from my constituency, as well as a group of ASDOR members who are part of the London and South East Political Committee. So you're welcome to observe our proceedings today. So let's move on. Let's move on to declarations, item 2. Can I ask the Assembly to note the interests set out in item 2? Do Assembly members have any disclosable pecuniary interests which relate to items on the agenda for today's meeting, or any other relevant interest, including any declarations in relation to gifts and hospitalities, which is not reflected in the authority's register of gifts and hospitalities? Thank you very much. Can I ask the Assembly formally to receive the Mayor's report covering the period for from 26th of September to the 6th of November 2025? The Mayor will now provide an oral update of up to 5 minutes or so in length on matters occurring since the publication of his report. Mr. Mayor.
Good morning. I'm delighted to share with the Assembly in London the news that the Government will be supporting the delivery of the Docklands Light Railway extension to Thamesmead in the upcoming budget. This is a massive win for our city, one that I, along with London's businesses, communities and others, have lobbied incredibly hard for. The DLR line extension, which will include a new station at Beckton, is critical, not just to stimulating job creation and growth in our capital, but across the country. It will make travel in London faster and easier, act as a catalyst for regeneration in a historically underserved part of our capital, and crucially, help to unlock the delivery of tens of thousands of new homes, giving Londoners the opportunities they need to get on and succeed in our city. I'm thrilled we've managed to get this over the line, and I'm incredibly excited about the benefits it will bring to our communities. The DLR line extension isn't just a major infrastructure project, it's an investment in our future and a statement of our ambition. It'll also build on my administration's record of delivery and our efforts to transform London's public transport system for the better. This includes, since 2016, the launch of the Elizabeth line, the Northern Line extension, the Barking Riverside extension, the Superloop and the Night Tube, the construction of hundreds of kilometres of cycleways and the creation of the largest zero-emission bus fleet in Europe. I look forward to working hand in hand with ministers and others to deliver this vital project as we continue to build a fairer, safer, greener and more prosperous London for everyone. Chair, I'd also like to mention the fantastic event that was held at City Hall earlier this week to celebrate 25 years of the Greater London Authority. On Monday evening, GLA staff and Assembly members past and present gathered with friends, dignitaries and former colleagues to reflect on how far this organisation has travelled and everything it's achieved for Londoners over the last quarter of a century. It was a brilliant night and a reminder that no matter our political differences, no matter how adversarial it can sometimes get in this chamber, we're all motivated by that same desire to serve our city. And shall look forward to answering questions later on this morning, and I suspect this afternoon as well.
Thank you very much. Now, I think there is a question arising from that report from Assembly Member Garrett.
Good morning, Mr Mayor. I know we will all be supporting the DLR extension, just as we've also supported the West London Orbital and the Bakerloo line, both of which now look increasingly dead. But you're making a big thing out of this DLR announcement today. But it's not an announcement. It's a pre-announcement of a possible announcement that might come yet next week in ongoing budget leaks. No actual news. There's no actual amount of money pledged. There's nothing concrete from the government. And what this looks like is a bit of news this morning to distract attention from what I'm also reading in the newspapers, which is that Londoners might be paying 10% extra council tax in order to fund the north of England. So how much actual money has the government pledged for this DLR announcement that you've just told us about?
Well, can I thank for his welcome? I think it was a welcome to the DLR extension hidden away somewhere in that speech. Look, the government has confirmed the green light to the DLR extension, and as with other projects in London, there'll be a combination of grant from the government and borrowing from the relevant sources. One of the things we've been talking to the government about is lessons from the Elizabeth line and the Northern Line extension in particular about how we can borrow against, for example, future fare receipts, borrow, for example... Forgive
me, I wasn't looking for the potted history of everything that's ever happened. My question was, how much has the government pledged for this announcement today that you've just told us about for the DLR?
Well, the total figure for the DLR extension is obviously commercially sensitive. The government will be announcing the figure they'll be contributing over the course of the next a week. It's great news for London, and I'm surprised he doesn't want to talk up the previous transport infrastructure in this great city and the innovative ways we've helped fund that. It's our track record which has persuaded the Treasury to move on this. And I think it's a great win for those businesses, those communities and others who've been lobbying for this for many years. The previous government failed to give the green light, which I suspect is one of the reasons why he's been so churlish this morning.
OK, so no news. Thanks, Chair.
Assembly Member Prince.
Good morning, Mr Mayor. I actually am very excited about this because, as you know, in East London we don't have many crossings, and the ones that we do we have to pay for. So the first assurance I would like to get from you is that you won't be tolling it, will you, Mr Mayor, like all the other crossings that we have?
So it's a DLR, so you have to pay the fare for the DLR. But he raises an important point, which is the history of our cities for centuries. East London's been neglected. And that's one of the reasons why public transport in the past has been so poor in the part of the city he's really proud to represent. Just to give him some further good news, we're going to have a Superloop in advance of the DLR. He will know sometimes these projects take many years to fruition. So the Superloop 11 will be serving many of his constituents as well. But can I reassure him that with me as Mayor, we keep fares low?
Okay, so that concerns me a little bit, Mr. Mayor, because the project is due to open by 2032. Can I have your assurance you still won't be mayor by then? No, I don't. But can we? How confident can we be actually that this project will be on time, on budget, and that the government will help us? Because we always get moaned at about the people from the north. They always moan, "Oh, London gets more grant than anyone else," but we actually end up paying a lot of it ourselves. The Crossrail was a prime example, but. You know, with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, you haven't, well, where we come from, you haven't got a very good record of doing it on time and on budget. How can we be confident that you will do that, please?
Well, it's really important we learn the lessons of previous projects in London, those that have been incredibly successful and those where there have been issues. Let's not pretend there haven't been issues. Many of these projects take many, many years. I remember being a baby minister when the Crossrail project first began. I was really pleased to cut the ribbon with that a few years ago. Transformative for our city. The Northern Line extension, the Superloop, Barking Riverside, which serves East London as well. TfL have been working on this for some time, as he knows. One of the reasons why we're keen to get this over the line is we've done the heavy lifting in relation to the advanced work. We think we can get going in earnest early next year in terms of the work required. Various powers we need, which will start going on early next year. And I think we can start construction certainly within this mayoral term.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, are there any other members who wish to contribute? Assembly Member Boff.
I'm sure you'd extend your thanks to your predecessor for authorising the Barking Riverside extension, which you seem to have claimed responsibility for.
I'm really pleased to have worked closely with the teams that worked with the previous mayors, both Boris Johnson and Ken Livingstone, both of whom deserve huge credit for talking up our city. And the point that Keith Prince made about people in other parts of the country wrongly assume London gets everything, and both Boris Johnson and Ken Livingstone did an incredibly good job in a non-patronising way, explaining to the country why when London succeeds, the country succeeds, and vice versa. And I hope he would, in a generous way, suggest that I've also tried to do the same.
Thank you for that. We're now moving to questions to the Mayor in terms of the main part of our agenda. And the priority order paper. Each group is allocated amount of time to ask their questions that's proportionate to the size of their group. The first written question is titled Your Mayoralty from Assembly Member Wilson.
Can I thank the member for his question? I promise to be mayor for all Londoners, building a fairer, safer, greener and more prosperous London for everyone. As part of that, I'm proud of what we've achieved at the GLA in delivering value for money since I was first elected. At times, I've had to take difficult decisions and find huge savings in a large part because of previous governments made an absolute mess of our economy and public services. They cut significant funding to the Met Police, London Fire Brigade and Transport for London. Since I became mayor, for the first time in its history, Transport for London has been reducing its deficit year on year, and in 2023-2024, TfL delivered its first ever operating surplus of £138 million, which was used to fund essential investment. The work TfL have done under my mayoralty means it has delivered more than £1.8 billion in recurring savings since 2016. The Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime and the Met have delivered savings totalling over £1.2 billion. This included savings through commercial activities, greater use of technology and the delivery of efficiency savings. Some members will be aware the previous government cut Met funding by £1.1 billion in real terms since 2010. Years of funding cuts from the government means London Fire Brigade is receiving £150 million less funding this year in real terms compared to 2010. In the latest inspection report, the HMI have rated LFB to be good in both making best use of resources and making the fire and rescue service affordable now and in the future. Each year, the GLA carries out a rigorous review of expenditure for the year ahead to ensure that this expenditure does not exceed the income available. Each year, I've been able to set a balanced budget for the GLA group. These balanced budgets have been set against a backdrop of falling income. This has been managed through an annual decision-making process that ensures the GLA spending is focused on my priorities as Mayor. I've also established other cost-saving measures, including the GLA Group Collaboration Programme, to ensure the GLA Group realises the maximum benefits obtainable from collaboration. The consultation budget will be published in December and will set out the total amount of savings and efficiencies that have been proposed by the GLA and other functional bodies for next year's budget. And my proposals will then be set out in my draft group budget, which will follow in January.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and good morning and to yourself and colleagues here today. So, before last year's elections, you promised there would be a moment of maximum opportunity for Londoners, for there's the prospect of not just a Labour Mayor, but of a Labour government working together, and that together with the Labour government there's no limit to what we can achieve. But since then we've seen no funding for the Bakerloo extension, smoke and mirrors over the DLR extension, delays to crucial hospital projects including Whipps Cross, Epsom and St Helier, Hillingdon, St Mary's and Charing Cross, the local government so-called fair funding review, which is going to cripple some of London's borough's finances, and of course the current uncertainty over various funding streams for your own budget here in City Hall, integrated settlement, business rates reform and any replacement to the UK SPF. Do you regret giving the impression last year, Mr Mayor, that London would be a land of milk and honey if only we had a Labour government?
Well, let's do the various points raised by the member. Firstly, a lot of the problems we have as a city and as a country is because of the hard Brexit, which he campaigned for so proudly and so happily. Secondly, I'll give him some examples of the benefits we obtained since the government changed last July. In the previous year, the amount of capital money we received from the government for TfL capital money was £250 million. That was doubled in the first year of this government, and we've now got a multi-year deal for the first time in more than 10 years, which is north of £2 billion. We've also had the great news, not just in terms of the DLR extension, but further support from TfL, and there'll be more announcement over the course of the next couple of weeks, I would hope. In relation to policing, really important, we've had the biggest increase in national, international capital cities grant from a central government in more than 10 years, an increase of more than 30% to the tune of £63 million towards the Metropolitan Police Service. We've had £11.7 billion from the government for affordable and social housing over the course of the next 10 years, and a further injection of £322 million towards a City Hall Development Investment Fund. Sadly, no money coming from the previous government in year. He wants examples of wins from the government, yet he's cutting me short. What is he scared of hearing?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If we can come back specifically, I mean, we knew about Brexit. You mentioned Brexit. We knew about Brexit long time before last year's election. So I don't see why that's a relevant consideration in what's happened since, which is the disastrous record of Labour's first budget. Tax hikes on businesses and jobs, unemployment up every month since then, and Lord knows what damage the second budget will do next week. But coming specifically back to London and looking for savings next year, and I think it would be nice if we could work collegiately. You may remember that last year I tried to table a budget amendment. Obviously, it wasn't a group, then couldn't get a seconder. I asked if you'd encourage anyone to help, and you famously said that you would never encourage anyone to work with reform. Now that we are London's fastest growing political movement, would you like to reconsider that advice?
Well, I think I had some disagreement from the progressive wing of the Assembly. Can I congratulate him? He's had a 100% increase in which is a metaphor for what's happening amongst voters, I suspect, across London. But look, I think what's really important is to just go back to what I said in my opening about the ability of parties to work cross-party, which was demonstrated on Monday in the anniversary, the 25th anniversary. I mean, now he has got somebody to second his motion. If it's passed, of course, I'll be more than happy to look at any motion that's passed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Assembly Member Garrett.
Morning. So when you're oh, has my microphone gone funny? Is that better?
I think.
Yeah. When you're thinking about what savings you might be looking to make in your budget next year, one of the things I would urge you not to consider would be some scheme of compensation for private hire vehicle drivers who have been extremely badly treated. I'm sure you're aware that this has been going on now for maybe a year, where TfL introduced a scheme where private hire drivers are, minicab drivers, have to be not only licensed, obviously, as a driver, but to be able to drive as a minicab driver. TfL introduced this system, and with a renewal process, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to want to do to make sure they're fit and proper people to do that important job, but then completely let those people down by failing to renew. There's an enormous backlog. I mean, even the most recent update we had was 2 days ago. There's still over 400 people whose license to drive a PHV vehicle has expired, and it's just sitting with TfL to process. And this is putting people in a position of almost destitution, you know, because they're still on the hook to pay for the leasing costs and all the fixed costs of having the car, which they are then not legally allowed to use entirely because of TfL. What I would urge you to consider when you're looking at the pressures on your budget is that there should be, this year or next year, some form of compensation for those drivers who've been extremely badly treated by TfL through no fault of their own.
Well, Chair, I'm not sure if there's a word he said I disagree with in terms of the importance of using public money sensibly, but also recognising the wrong done to these individuals and, by extension, their families through no fault of their own. And as he said, for the best of intentions, TfL sought to change the system, plus there was a cyber attack. But he's right, drivers are being let down, so I can give him that reassurance. And can I, again, thank the way he said what he said, both the substance and the way he said it.
Give me the reassurance that there will be a compensation scheme for those drivers.
I beg your pardon, sorry. I can give that reassurance. I think I've given the assurance in the past, and I've got a detailed answer, which I'll send him in writing because of time reasons because he's got a question later on about the steps TfL have taken and what they will seek to do in relation to addressing the compensation which some PHV drivers deserve for the reasons he set out.
So is there a timeline on when we might see that compensation?
I would hope by the end of this year we'll be able to set out the details. The priority I've said to TfL is sort the licences out in the backlog, so it's the same human beings that have been involved in the compensation. He'll appreciate that probably more value in the short term. The focus is that, and so once we think we're in a better position with that, I think it's a 10-day turnaround now, I can give him the guarantee that those same officers will be looking into a compensation scheme to address the points he's made.
By the end of this year?
I'd hope so.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Assembly Member Georgiou.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. I hope you're well, and apologise for my voice. You know, I always get overly excited when I see you, and my voice does all sorts of things when I'm near you. But Mr. Mayor, talking of budget savings, for the last 9 years, all you've done is moan and whine and say that it's always someone else's fault for the things that you have to do. But possibly one of the budget savings you could have made was the cost of your Africa trip, which cost the taxpayer £83,000. You took an entourage of 11 staff to South Africa alone. Can you explain, by the way, this was on business class, so good for you. I hope they took care of you on the flight. Can you explain why such a large team was essential, or does streamlining only ever apply to everyone else's footprint but yours?
Chairs, you'll be aware there's a question on this later on, which I'm happy to respond to. Now, I was proud to visit Africa earlier this year, the first Mayor of London to lead a trade mission to that important continent. It's the role of the Mayor of London to champion the capital as an exceptional place to live, work, study and invest in. The purpose of the visit was to promote London, support growth, generate new trade and investment opportunities and deepen our cultural links with some of the fastest growing cities in the world. To maximise the impact of this visit, our growth agency, London & Partners, hosted a trade delegation of 25 London-based companies through the Grow London Global Programme, helping businesses expand and access opportunities in African markets. In 2024, trade between the UK and Africa was worth £50 billion, with UK exports up 7% year-on-year, making the UK and London in particular one of Africa's most significant trading
Mr. Chairman,
partners.
what does this have to do with budget savings? I was asking about budget savings. He's responding to my written question.
I think if you let the Mayor finish, you might get an answer.
Well, might not. Yeah.
Well,
What does this have to do with the question, which is about budget savings?
Well, you're building up to it, Mr. Mayor.
I'm really surprised the member doesn't realise that if businesses are successful and thrive, they pay more in taxes, including business rates, which means more money for our budget. I'm happy to organise a...
Well, there we go. That was a response related to the question, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much. So then I do wonder, given that's your thinking, how useless must be the Foreign Secretary and the International Development Secretary, or whoever it is these days. I mean, they're turning around so fast I can't tell, that they have to send you instead.
I think the fact that when there was previous foreign secretaries, the previous mayor went on double the visits I've been on. I think he went on 37 foreign trips in 8 years. Explains both the previous mayor. By the way, I don't get up to what he got up to when he goes on foreign trips. I hasten.
Well, we could be here all day if we're going down what the old blonde bombshell used to do. But Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor.
Chair, his voice changed. There.
Only because I'm near you. How many times do we have to go through this, Mr. Mayor? So, look, I would say, Mr. Mayor, why did you have to go business class? Why did taxpayers have to fund your lavish trips in that way? Can't you fly with the rest of us normally?
Chair, a number of the legs of that trip were economy class.
Did you fly business class, yes or no?
One of the legs was business class, I think, Chair. I'm trying to find out. Trying to get the table. I'm more than happy to send it to you. Let me find it now. 1 second.
Well, look, I'll leave it there, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much, and I'll try and improve my voice for my next question. Thank you so much.
Economy. I can list out the economy flights if he wants me to. Okay.
Assembly Member Baker.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to briefly follow up on Assemblymember Garrett's question about the private hire drivers, the delays in relicensing and potential compensation. I'd really support some scheme that recognises the hardship that, as we've all seen and we've talked about in this chamber before, the hardship for those drivers who have been unable to work for periods of time. What my concern is... my priority concern is that the problem continues, that the liabilities of what that compensation scheme continue to go up. We're not seeing significant drops in the numbers of drivers. I've raised this with you before. I've put it in writing to Deputy Mayor for Transport. I'm waiting for a meeting with him to discuss it in detail because we're still seeing, as I said to you before, hundreds of drivers at any one time unable to work with no additional delays on their part. The last number that we had from TfL, which was only last week, was 400. So it's 400, not waiting for any tests or anything like that. So that's additional potential claims for compensation. Why is TfL not getting on top of this? And can you give us a further assurance that you look into why these specific delays just seem not to be going away?
Which raises various points there. Firstly, we're talking about a level of PHV drivers that are at record levels in terms of tens of thousands of drivers. So in percentage terms, it's quite small. There's a very good reason why there's been a big increase in drivers applying for renewals. It's because the first cohort of drivers who new drivers in 2013, when the app came into use, all joined them, and so the 4-year, 3-year periods have all come at a similar time, which is why there's a large number of drivers are asking for renewals. TfL has added additional staff to that team, I think 40 staff to that team, to try and address the issue. It's also, there's been a big change in terms of the requirement for assessments, which wasn't the case previously. So in addition to a normal application for renewals and the forms that are going to be processed, there's checking that the assessments have been passed by the relevant driver, checking there's no additional medical issues in relation to the driver, and sometimes there's an exchange of information between TfL and the driver. That being said, TfL is prioritising resources on renewing drivers by expiration date. The turnaround is now 10 working days, but because of the reasons I've said before, I do recognise there is an issue in relation to those drivers whose licences were renewed in an untimely fashion, and as a consequence have suffered a loss. And that's why I've asked TfL to look into the issue of compensation for those drivers.
I just would like to say, and I welcome your commitment on this, and I welcome your continued interest in it, but these are the answers that I get from TfL, and they don't stack up. And I would ask you to get the figures that the Transport Committee see, which are, and specifically ones that have nothing to do with the medical, nothing to do with any outstanding tests, no outstanding information whatsoever needed, just waiting for TfL to turn it around, and those have consistently been in the hundreds all the way back to July, all the way since we started raising this. This is a genuine problem. I cannot seem to get to the bottom of it, and I would really urge you to go back and have a look at what exactly is going on.
Well, the member raises really important points because she's been approached by constituents, I'm sure, who's suffering the consequences.
We all are, yes.
Can I arrange for the relevant team in TfL to meet with her to discuss this issue because she deserves proper reassurances. She's also right. This issue's been raised for some time, which is one of the reasons why I asked TfL to sort this out. And so let's organise that meeting, and then she can, using her other hats, Transport Committee, also raise with me as well, or offline, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm slightly puzzled about having to look at London's role as an international city and visiting other countries being seen as a potential for budget saving. I mean, the previous incumbent of your position, as you've already mentioned, was very fond of overseas travel, and I believe his trips didn't lead to as many positive outcomes for Londoners, well, as we've already heard today, maybe for himself personally. But your first overseas trip after you were elected in 2016 was to India, and you reopened offices in Mumbai and Delhi, closed by the previous mayor, Boris Johnson, showing a stark contrast to the Tory small island mentality. Now, when you released figures in 2023, India overtook the USA as the country with the most foreign direct investments in the UK, in London. Are you expecting a similar boost based on your visit to Africa?
Well, I think the big advantage we have with India is that this Prime Minister has also managed to do what the previous government couldn't do, was organise a trade deal with India, which is really important. And you think about the contribution made not just by the Indian diaspora to our country, but foreign direct investment. It's just huge, really important to build upon. Not just our previous visit and our offices in India, which, if we followed the advice of the Conservative Party, we'd close down again. But see what benefit that comes from those links to London from India. In terms of Africa, it's really important to recognise these fast cities that are dynamic. Lagos, Accra, Cape Town, a huge amount of energy. The tech sector's flourishing and thriving, and already some of the news we've had is incredibly encouraging in terms of progress made from the trip. And that's just a few months afterwards in relation to agreements reached with leading African fintech unicorns, 10 high-growth startups, having seed future collaborations, attracting investment, new market pathways, a signed partnership agreement with 3 companies in Nigeria, a partnership with service banks in Africa, a reseller agreement on the continent, and I could go on. And that's just a few months after after the trip, and we'll have more fruits flourishing in months to come. And he's right, by the way, to remind ourselves of the consequence of a small island mentality in terms of lack of ambition. The GLA shouldn't be about parish politics. It should be about selling our city, promoting our city, advocating for our city, rather than, as these guys do, talk our city down.
Assembly Member Boff.
Just because of the direction of the debate, I should declare an interest as chair of Africa House London, which does organise trade missions and investment in London.
Thank you for that. Any other points on this? Can I just tell you, we're still on question 1. I think we've been very creative in the way that we've answered questions. Is there any more? Assembly Member Best.
Thank you, Chair. Any savings that you're going to have to make in this budget will be driven, of course, by the government budget. Rachel Reeves has been quoted as floating plans for a pay-per-mile scheme. 2 years ago in this very session in Mayor's Question Time, you said twice to me, as long as I am Mayor, there will be no pay-per-mile scheme. Can I just check that you have made that representation to the Chancellor on this?
Can I give a reassurance, because it's a really important point she raises about what the Mayor should do, irrespective of the colour of the government, whether it's Labour or Conservative. And I'm sure she'll, at least give me some credit for standing up to the previous government when it came to the previous government trying to force me to remove concessionary fares for children and pensioners. I will stand up to this government as well if they try to introduce paper mile in London. Can I give you that reassurance?
Thank you. Can I check that you have made that representation, though? Have you written to the Chancellor? Have you spoken with her about this? Because obviously it might be too late once the announcement is made. We need to be making that representation before.
No, because I've had no representations from the government that they're intending to do this. And if they did announce this, hypothetically speaking, I'm sure there'd be a consultation process and I'd respond in due course on that.
Thanks. Can I check what you have written to the government asking for ahead of this?
Chair, I'm more than happy to just check with the office and make public our written representations, because I normally do, and I don't see any reason why I wouldn't this time. But I've made written representations, and I'm more than happy to share that. I don't see why I wouldn't.
Thank you.
OK, let's move on to question 2 in the name of Assembly Member Arani.
Can I thank the member for his question? The government's facing an extremely difficult economic situation and a heavy strain on public finances following 14 years of the previous government's mismanagement of the economy, which included the catastrophic Liz Truss budget and the damage caused by a disastrous Brexit deal. The legacy left behind by the previous government could not be clearer. Soaring inflation, a cost of living crisis, a flatlining economy, stymied investment and a black hole in public finances. As a result, I appreciate that the Chancellor will have to make some tough decisions in her budget next week, including the need to stabilise the nation's growing debt while protecting public services and supporting the most vulnerable communities at the same time as stimulating the growth we need to see nationwide. As I've said many times in this chamber, when London succeeds, the whole country succeeds. Fortunately, unlike the previous government, this government recognises London's central role in driving national growth and the financial contribution we make to the Treasury, over £43 billion each year. Since the general election, it has backed a series of transformative projects in the capital, including £322 million for house building through the City Hall Developer Investment Fund, support for an Oxford Street Mayoral Development Corporation paving the way for pedestrianisation and revitalisation of one of the most iconic streets in the country, granting the largest multi-year funding settlement for TfL in over a decade, with £2 billion secured until 2030, and agreeing a package of emergency housing reforms and more further planning powers so that we can accelerate development and tackle London's acute housing shortage. These commitments demonstrate a clear shift. London is once again being empowered to deliver growth, homes and infrastructure for the future. I'm committed to using my position as Mayor to advocate for the investment and powers this city needs, but I'm not complacent, and I'll continue to advocate for the investment and powers London needs. This includes building vital transport infrastructure projects like the DLR extension to Thamesmead to unlock housing and growth. We've heard the good news on this morning, and additional funding for London's emergency services. I'll continue to work with and to lobby partners in government so that we can continue delivering for our capital.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we on this side, on the Labour side, do agree and welcome the announcement on the DLR extension to Thamesmead, and we don't, unlike the others, believe that the West London Orbital and Bakerloo line extensions are completely dead in the water. London, as you alluded, is the engine of the UK economy, and we need the Chancellor to help us continue that growth. And one of those examples that we could be looking at is a tourism levy. Should the Chancellor give London the power to raise a levy on tourists as other cities do around the world?
Well, it's one of the things I've been lobbying for in addition to the DLR extension from the government. I mean, any of us who goes to any major city across the globe, and indeed to Edinburgh as well, very shortly, will see that when we pay a hotel bill, we pay a very small percentage, so a couple of quid, which helps that city do a number of things otherwise won't be able to do. As a consequence, some other global cities are, we're in danger of them accelerating ahead of us in terms of what they can do in terms of improving public realm, improving tourist experience and so forth. So I'm lobbying the government quite about the importance of this. I think it's very important, particularly in the context of us losing money that we previously received from the European Union. We were told it going to the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and that's now almost come to zero. That's why it's important to replace that and to get growth in our city as well as support for tourists.
Thank you. And you mentioned funding for emergency service. Now, the government has increased, since it came into power, funding for the Metropolitan Police, but it still does not cover the police's central London obligations, particularly around, if you're looking at the cost of policing protests, for example, over the last few years. Should the government fully reimburse London for the extra policing costs our capital city faces?
Well, he'll be aware, because we are an international capital city, in addition to the normal police functions that the police have, and they have the same across the country, the police also deal with issues around protest, ceremonial issues, diplomatic visits, state visits, sporting events, cultural events, festivals, and so forth. And that provides an additional burden on the police service. Governments have recognised this, of different political persuasions, and have given an additional top-up called the National and International Capital Cities Grant Money. According to the Home Office, there's a shortfall of how much money we received for that, to the tune of £240 million. Now, this government, for the first time in 10 years, gave us an increase of 30%, around £63 million. We need an additional increase if we're going to fill that delta, but also avoid what he sees in his patch, abstractions, where his enabled teams are having to be pulled out of police in Bretton and Harrow because they've been required in the centre of our city. That can't be right.
Assembly Member Hall.
Morning, Mr. Mayor. We're talking about the budget, and I can honestly say I have never known so many people be so concerned about the budget next week. Everybody is. Everybody's talking about it. And of course, all these kites getting flown all the time. And Lindsay Hoyle, who we all know is the Speaker of the House, referred to it as a hokey-cokey budget. The problem is this just puts businesses in a bad position. It puts all of us in a bad position. So many of the homes in London are going to get caught by this mansion tax if that goes ahead. Were you surprised at the new poll that was on the front page of today's Mail, which found that 0% of Britons now believe that the economy is in a very good state? Absolutely nobody.
Can I do the first part of the question before I do the second part, which is I agree with her in terms of the concern it has, the concern businesses and individuals feel when they see leaks or briefings in advance of a budget. I think that there's a very good reason why historically budgets should be kept quiet until the day of the budget, because obviously it can set hairs going and stuff, but also lead to the sort of concern she's talking about. In relation to the second issue, look, I know from previous experience, polls go up and down. The most important poll that matters is election day. If I believe the polls, when I was running to be mayor last time, she'd be the mayor.
I know. I know. Nobody knows that better than me, Mr. Mayor. Nobody knows that better than me. I mean, we have got chaos out there, and we definitely, that is not good for businesses, it's not good for people. I went to see a chemist in Finchley the other day. He's very concerned about everything, including shoplifting. Are you going to try and get some more money into the police service? It's not just for shoplifting. This chemist has to lock his front door, which is people are then turning away because he's had so much stolen. If we're looking at extra money, and you'll know the thing I talk about all the time now is we are going to have to put a load more detectives looking into these rape gang investigations. The police are £260 million short. We are losing officers from every single division, it would appear. And yesterday I asked your deputy mayor, have we got extra people on the safer neighbourhood teams? Well, she then gave me a load of stats on how very well she thinks they're doing. Didn't answer. But the truth is that we've lost 12 police officers in total and only gained 2 PCSOs off the front line, the neighbourhood teams. We desperately need more money into the Metropolitan Police, desperately. Have you asked the government for that?
Can I thank her for a question? Can I just to do with both parts of the question? Firstly, I also share conversations with small businesses, and they echo what she said about their concern in relation to the macroeconomics, but also their concern in relation to shoplifting. The police call this, and sorry to impersonalise it, about high-volume crime for obvious reasons. And so what the police have done in the last period is focus, at the same time as keeping focus on homicides and violence against women and girls, which I'll come to, but focus on high-volume crime. And it's paying dividends, first giving shop owners confidence to report this crime, because many of them stopped reporting it because they didn't see any action being taken. Also, it should be pleased to know that police are using some of their live facial recognition, but also retrospective facial recognition, because often shops have CCTV, but they don't bother sharing it because they don't see the point. They're now sharing it, and the police are making lots of arrests because it's the same organised criminal groups often involved in this issue. And so we hope to see more progress in relation to shoplifting going down. The second issue she raises is incredibly important, is more resources for our police service. And I'm incredibly proud. I'm the mayor that more than doubled City Hall investment for the police service at the same time as them losing £1.1 billion. One of my asks to the government has been in relation to additional resources for the police, and I'll share the letter so colleagues can see. I am worried about the cumulative impact of cuts on policing in London at the same time as pressures go up. I mentioned in answer to Krupesh Irani's question the pressures of being an international and capital city grant, but that can't mean we can't do the bread and butter stuff in terms of shoplifting, violence against women and girls, violent crime and so forth. So I can give her that assurance. I will continue to lobby the government for more resources for our great city, particularly in terms of policing.
And will you also lobby the government on trying to not be in such a chaotic state? The chaos is causing problems for business. The chaos is worrying Londoners. And Rachel Reeves has got absolutely no support. She is so bad. I mean, Sadiq Khan, Keir Starmer rather, says... yeah, nearly put it... Well, actually, talking about the mayor getting promotion, I do hope you're not vexed, because at the moment the number 10 office is... trying to put the knife into so many cabinet members because they think they want to stand to be the PM. I hope you're not offended that they're not attacking you in that way. Maybe Andy Burnham. Do you think that Keir Starmer will still be the Prime Minister for the next election?
Chair, Keir Starmer's got my full support. Can I just say this? I, as Mayor, have dealt with, I've run out of count the number of Prime Ministers, David Cameron, Theresa May, remember her?
But they were all better
Boris
than Keir
Johnson,
Starmer.
Boris Johnson.
Every single one of them. Even Liz Truss was better than Keir Starmer.
I think somebody followed Liz Truss. I forgot who now. I mean, just, you know, it's just... and I can
so
also
do you
list
think
the
he will still be Prime Minister for the next election?
I hope he does. I think the inheritance that this Labour government's had to deal with has been just awful. What they're trying to do is fix the foundations.
Oh,
and from there try and address.
Not
the
washing, Mr. Mayor. None of us believe it.
Well,
None of us believe it, and we're all dreading next week. Thank you, Chairman.
Well, I mean, I think the members got huge experience with over the last 14 years in terms of chaos. And I think what the country needs is calm, stability.
Thank you, Mr.
Calm,
Mayor.
and that's what Keir
Out
Starmer
of time.
and Rachel
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? I'm now going to move on to Assembly Member Bakari. Now, we've got... Sorry. Apologies. Assembly Member Ahmed on this question.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, we've talked about, you've just referred to the 14 years of chaos preceding this government. As you know, and everybody in this chamber in London knows, the Met was put under extreme financial pressure because of 14 years of austerity under the last government, and that led to police officers falling to as low as 30,000. And of course, it would have been a lot worse if you hadn't taken the decisive action that you took to increase funding from City Hall to record levels. Do you remember the Assembly Member Hall, speaking out against these damaging cuts, or supporting your investment from City Hall to keep Londoners safe at the time?
Well, I thank the member for her question. I can remember as a Member of Parliament in London for 11 years, during those 8 years where the previous Mayor was in City Hall. On no occasion did I recall a Conservative member complaining about police stations closing down, neighbourhood teams being stripped bare. And every year since I've been Mayor, when I've increased investment to the police through City Hall, our budget's voted down an attempt is made to vote down our budget by the Conservatives. So when they cry crocodile tears about more investment in the police, at the same time as voting against increased investment, that's one of the reasons why in London they lose elections again and again and again.
Chairman,
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
I was mentioned, so I'm allowed to say something, albeit small.
You're always allowed to say something,
I always
Susan,
have
but
to say
whether you
something.
should is another thing.
It is in my DNA.
You want to
Thank
say
you.
something.
I do.
You
and
do.
the thing I want to say is that you can always throw an awful lot at me, but I have always supported our Metropolitan Police 100%, and everybody in this chamber should know they need more money, because if we want to be kept safe, the Metropolitan Police need more money. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, right. Can we just move on? Because actually, you're all being very creative in terms of your interventions. Too creative. Assembly Member Bakari, but we have two allied questions. I'm giving the option to members in a planned way whether they wish to come in. I think Assembly Member Mohima is a question later on the agenda that we should group, and Assembly Member Roberts. They're housing related rather than planning related, I'm assuming. That's why I suggest we might group them. We need to give the Mayor a chance. If you want the formal answer the Mayor that would have given to your question, indicate that. It's up to you as members. Assembly Member Bakari.
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank the member for a question? I'm proud of my track record in delivering the affordable and accessible housing London needs. London was delivering over 45,000 net additional homes per year just before the pandemic, the largest number of additional homes completed in London since the 1930s. Council housing starts under my mayoralty reached their highest level since the 1970s, and in 2023, councils in London were building more than double the rest of the country combined. I'm also proud of the action we've taken in making homes accessible. The London Plan 2021 is a trailblazer on accessible housing targets, leading the way nationally. For example, Policy D7 requires 10% of new homes delivered in London to be wheelchair user, M4-3 homes, and the remainder to be accessible and adaptable homes, M4 subsection 2. Between January 2021 and September 2025, 61,000 children 49 M42 and 8,975 M43 housing completions were recorded in the Planning London Data Hub. This is a testament to the important role the London Plan plays in driving up accessible housing delivery. However, I know that since Brexit, the pandemic and Liz Truss's mini-budget, house building has declined, both in London and nationally, and we know that accessible housing delivery is likely to be impacted by the same macroeconomic factors. I'm delighted to have now launched the London Social and Affordable Homes Programme, which is a key pillar of our response. It will deliver thousands more of the social and affordable homes London needs, and our planning requirements will work to drive up the number of them which are accessible. The new London Social and Affordable Homes Programme will also make capital funding available to support partners to deliver specialist and supported housing. It will increase the supply of housing for people with care, support and supervision needs, including for disabled Londoners. As part of the development of the next London Plan, we've consulted towards the new London Plan document earlier this year. We're also due to publish a disability in housing research note in conjunction with the draft London Plan next year and the strategic housing market assessment. This will help further inform the need for accessible housing. My team are also working to improve City Hall's own data, including improvements to the data collection for 21-26 Affordable Homes Programme and the data collected via the Planning London Data Hub.
Thank you for your answer, Mr Mayor. Your own published data does show that London is consistently failing to meet its accessible housing targets. Fewer than a half of new homes meet the minimum accessible and adaptable standard when it should be 90%. Why are these targets still being missed? And you've mentioned programmes, but what in those programmes that you've mentioned are the concrete steps that you will take right now to turn around this and so that disabled Londoners can live in homes that are safe, suitable and genuinely accessible?
Well, I'm not sure if the figures you said, the figures that I've got. The figures I've got is 61,249 accessible and adaptable, and 8,975 are a wheelchair user as well. There has been a massive slump in terms of all new homes. That clearly affects these homes as well. But I'll ask my team to look at the figures she said. I'm not saying that they're wrong, by the way, but let me just look at the figures she said, because they're not the figures that I've got.
Inclusion London has been working with me and talking to me about some of the challenges that they're facing in terms of looking at this data, and they would say that they are not meeting your targets. Will your policy shift of enabling affordable housing quotas to drop to 20% on some developments directly increase the number of accessible houses in the capital? And will you commit to using the 322 million City Hall Developer Fund to increase the numbers?
Yeah, can I thank you for a question? It's really important. So the purpose of the emergency measures is to boost house building of all types, including clearly affordable and accessible housing, given the overall supply is slowed down. I want to give you the reassurance as well that none of the emergency measures will remove the requirement to build 90% of the M42 accessible and adaptable homes and 10% of the wheelchair user homes, but we'll look at what we can do in terms of the City Hall Developer Investment Fund to make sure we guarantee more wheelchair user and accessible and adaptable homes, which are crucial for the reasons she set out.
And you mentioned the target of 10% of new homes to meet the wheelchair dwelling standard, yet last year only 6% was delivered. So will you, again, reaffirm that 10% target, strengthen it, ensure that every development meets this target in practice, not just on paper?
She's absolutely right. And again, the figures she said, I'm not saying they're wrong, but they're not the ones I've got. So let me take that away, because the 10% and 9% figures are a requirement for planning. And then building control can then go in and check. And if they've not met the requirements as set in planning, enforcement action can be taken. So I'm disappointed to hear those figures, but let me take them away and maybe work with her offline to sort this out.
I appreciate that. Now, disabled people, as you know best what accessible housing should look like and feel like, because they have to live with the consequences when it isn't delivered. And they are a unique stakeholder group, and co-producing housing policy with them may address some of these systemic concerns. Will you commit to genuine co-production with DDPOs as you review your London plan, involving them at every stage as opposed to just consultation when the plan is complete?
No, these plans, particularly where they affect this really important community, are co-designed, and we'll make sure that carries on being the case.
Thank you. And it would be great if we had a disability champion, because then we really would see co-production throughout all our policies. I hope you'll agree with me on that point as well. Yeah. Maybe not.
Mr. Mayor, before we go on to clock, do you want to bring your unit a bit closer to you? Because that some members are having the microphone unit just a little bit closer, because they're having some trouble hearing you. OK, let's then move on to Assembly Member Mohima.
Good morning, Mayor Khan. My question is around the emergency measures that have been introduced. Obviously, we've got a situation where we are in development of the new London plan, and related but not kind of incidental but related is this change from 35 to 20% of new homes being built for a fixed period of time to be social and affordable homes. So I'm just wondering, given kind of that context, how are you going to ensure that those homes are still delivered, and given the emergency measures that have been brought in to kickstart house building in the capital? Because obviously we've had a lot of financial and economic pressures really acutely affecting London.
No, Chair, can I thank the member for her question. So we've agreed with the government these temporary emergency measures to try and kickstart house building in London, and we'll see very soon, I suspect, similar measures across the country, because for a variety of reasons, and I've mentioned some of them in answer to the previous question, house building is not where it needs to be. And so these are temporary measures, and developers and councils are required to not just begin construction, but complete construction in quick pace. And if they don't, there's provisions to claw back, but also to change some of the housing to affordable. And the permissions are quite clearly use it or lose it. And so that reassurance I can give her in relation to these additional changes that are being made. But if she's seen the data that I have in terms of starts or lack of, a third of boroughs in our city, a third, didn't have one single start in Q1. That's a big issue. That means more families in temporary accommodation, more families in overcrowded accommodation, more people sleep in rough. Each day, 32 boroughs spend £5 million in temporary accommodation. That can't be right.
Yeah, thank you. And I think many of us will be aware that one of the reasons that boroughs have struggled to instigate starts in the last year or so is developers and housing associations to build is around land values. I had the great pleasure of being in Manchester last Saturday with some Labour colleagues from their combined authority, talking about the challenges and opportunities they face, and they have the same challenges, but in terms of land values, many more opportunities, and a slightly easier starting position to build the homes that the government has asked them to contribute to those targets. So with that in mind, given that, what confirmation have you had from developers that homes that wouldn't have been built will now be built? And I know you've mentioned clawbacks, but we don't want to get into a situation where developers are gaming a system which is intended to kickstart works and they might be holding back. I just would like some reassurance that we have it concrete that they are bringing forward schemes that would have not been viable or feasible had this not happened.
I mean, house builders aren't just private developers, they're also councils and housing associations, as she's alluded to as well, but they're facing a perfect storm. I mean, construction costs have gone up by more than 50% in the last few years. Concrete is up by, I think, 43%, steel is up by 50%. That's affecting everyone across the housing sector. Add to that the interest rates, Add to that the inability to get construction workers, the shortage there are there. Add to that the poor implementation of building safety regulations. 90% of new homes in London are flats. 61% of flats across the country are in London. That's created the perfect storm. When I'm told that there are 43,000 homes stalled in London, there's a reason for that. And so we have been speaking to developers, speaking to councils, speaking to housing associations to see what we can do to try and kickstart house building, which is an issue across the country, by the way. It's not just London. And we think this short-term temporary measure will help kickstart housing delivery. But, we're going to wait and see. It is really important to address the underlying causes, but at the same time give some stimulus to the whole sector.
Thank you for that. If I could just, you mentioned leasehold there, and if I could make a cheeky ask to continue to push the government to bring in those changes that are really needed in the capital for leaseholders and shared owners. I know most of the homes that are being built will be flats. It's a very London-specific issue, and we have our report, which thank you very much for your responses to the Housing Committee's leasehold report, but leaseholders are being price gouged, there's no other way to put it, by their freeholders, and it's really difficult to see how the market can pick up if people are concerned about uncapped bills in the future, given the state of people's wage increases and the cost of living.
I mean, I agree with her, in the view that the leasehold system is broken. I think the shared ownership system is challenging as well. And that's why the sooner we move from leasehold to common hold, the sooner we address some of the challenges that she knows when people's dreams of being homeowners has turned to nightmares because of the concerns around ground rent, service charges and so forth. So we are lobbying the government in relation to this issue. We think we've got an open door. The government understands these issues and the government's made great progress reforming the private rental market, and we need the same sort of urgency in terms of the leasehold shared ownership market as well.
Thank you, Mayor Khan.
Assembly Member Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. Many of the points which I've raised have been answered, I think, in the previous answer. So if I may go straight through to supplementaries. Can I just double-check? Are we talking about, within this new scheme, completions, full site completions will be eligible, or is it ones that are made to start on site?
Good question. So it's not starts anymore. So if you're going to qualify for this planning, park for a second the grant, I'll come to that if you want me to. You must not only have got through the system by March 28, but also have completed at least the first floor. Depends on this. It's a scheme-by-scheme basis, so it can't just be a shovel in the ground. We've got to see meaningful progress made by 2030. Otherwise, either the money comes back if it's grant, or permission can be withdrawn, or there's a clawback system in terms of viability reviews. And so that'll be set out in the consultation that I think is published very soon.
Okay. Would that completion of the first floor apply to multi-block properties or of a single block on the site?
That's why deliberately I've given a general answer to the question, because I wanted to distinguish shovel in the ground, which is or the Horden, which can be a start now, from substantive progress. And so that'll be set out in the consultation, and I'd be keen to hear his views as a council leader about what he would like to see as confirmation that progress has been made. What we don't want is anybody gaming the system. I don't think from the conversation we've had that's the intention of anybody, because developers, frankly speaking, want to make profit, right? They want to, and so it's not in their interest to game the system. But I'd be interested in his views as a house builder in this area.
Well, one of the concerns that I have on the Richmond property is Stag Brewery, which you'll be fully aware of, which the planning inspector allowed just 7% to go through. But there is tens of millions of SIL contributions coming to Richmond as a result of that. As a result of this new scheme, they could just add an extra 3% of their own affordable. The Mayor's scheme, as I understand it, will top up to the 20, and we could lose 50% of our SIL coming through to Richmond. And it's schemes like that which are happening across the capital, where councils are going to be losing out on tens of millions of SIL, which really should be going into supporting local communities.
So I don't for good reasons. I don't talk about individual schemes for reasons he'll understand. So let me talk generally speaking. So in relation to the SIL levy, there is a proposal that can be reduced to 50% if there's 20% or more affordable housing. And there's a conversation between the council and the developer about the sliding scale, about where that goes. We are offering a top-up of grant money
Yep.
if somebody wants to build more affordable homes and the council thinks they can, to make it viable for them to do so. The concern we have, though, without talking about the individual scheme you mentioned, is there are developments where permissions have been granted, they've been started, but they've stalled for the reasons I've set out. It's to try and stimulate those to get going, that these flexibilities have been introduced. What we don't want and can't have is those being gamed, and we'll work with good councils to make sure that doesn't happen, and developers.
Thank you. So just to confirm what we've heard already, so we're looking at a genuinely temporary scheme which will not complete beyond
I want to reassure him that
March
this is an emergency temporary scheme.
Good, and it's going to be on the first floor, but that needs a bit more fleshing out in terms of the detail. Mr Mayor, it would be remiss of me not to say as a council leader that I can't help see that as a council leader I'm losing 50% of my still-on sites and you're not losing any. Do you think that sounds really very fair?
Chair, as the Mayor of London, it would be remiss of me not to say that last year only 109 homes were begun in his borough. The year before only 40 were begun in his borough. The year before only 60 were begun in his borough. The year before only 40 were begun in his borough. And the year before only 80. It'd be remiss for me to say there are people in his borough desperate need for affordable housing. He's letting them down.
And it would be equally remiss of me not to mention that if you hadn't interfered with the Stag Brewery, we would be on site by now. We would be providing lots more affordable housing that we're allowed underneath.
Let's be quite clear. The reason why 190 starts, 40 starts, 60 starts, 40 starts, 80 starts, in 5 years they've started 400 homes. 400 homes. The reason for that is because of the Stag Brewery. I mean,
no, it's not just that. But all you're doing is taking into account ones which have got London Assembly figures included, isn't it? So we're not including.
Oh no, these are overall figures. These aren't just affordable. These
are including
overall
acquisitions
figures
as well.
These are total housing starts. I've got completions as well, Chair. Let me do completions. so last year, the number of homes they completed, private, council, affordable. Guess how many? 90. The year before that, do you know how many homes they completed? The entire borough, all homes, 70. 21-22, 20. 2021, 60. I mean, that's the sort of failure that's leading to us having to intervene, working with developers and the government and good councils to build the homes Londoners need. I wish Richmond would step up.
Well, if we had the backing of a mayor that was genuinely interested, we would. No more further, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the cooperation from members. Thank you for the cooperation from members in that, in terms of coming together. We've now got Assembly Lord Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, are you confident that your figures for the 26-23 Affordable Homes Programme are accurate, including the 25,658 housing starts announced in the 23-24 financial year?
2630 figures, I'm sure.
2016 to 2023 figures. Are you positive that they are accurate? Mike.
I'm not going to hand, but I thought, yeah, because they said there was an MHCLG checked and verified and stuff. But yeah, I'm sure, I'm confident that. I think the target was 116,000, and I'm sure they're accurate.
I tell you why I say this, Mr. Mayor, because the founder of Molia, a widely respected data and research organisation in the development industry, has publicly, and I stress that part, publicly accused the GLA of counting these housing figures prematurely, suggesting that many of the 25,658 homes are still not under construction even today. He says that in the first quarter of the 2023, GLA officers were contacting developers and housing associations and local authorities, encouraging them to, and I quote, dig a trench and register as many housing starts as possible. Can you confirm if these allegations are true?
It's the first time I heard them. Can I just check it? Does he mean 23 to 26? So the reason I mention this is because 2016 to 2023, I'm confident that we smashed the government target of 116,000. It's because we were concerned that the requirement was only to have starts, not completions, that we said to the government, look, we think people want to see completions, not just starts. And so for the next tranche of starts, I think 23 to 26, there's a 21 delay. We said not just starts, but there should be completions by a certain date as well. And we're now talking to the government about 26 to 30, and that's why I said...
Mr Mayor, this is not so much about starts and completions. You and I have had that conversation before. Yeah. He's alleging that the actual counting was deliberately I use the word manipulated. That's the point. It is the technicality of what a start or not will become relevant. And I tell you why. Because this morning I've written to the GLA chief officer asking her to complete a full investigation into these allegations, because they are very serious ones, and for the GLA affordable housing figures to be audited externally. And would you be happy to support this and ask your Deputy Mayor to comply with this fully as well?
Well, I think you should write to the MHCLG. I mean, why write to you? Write to the government.
I will do. But of course,
it was Michael Gove or Generic. I forget who it was now. It's one of those guys.
Listen, I'm prepared to write to them all, because this is very fair. So I want to be clear, Mayor. They're not alleging that you did something. He's quite open in his comments that it wasn't you as an individual, yeah, but it was the GLA and potentially your office. I want to use the word alleged because they are allegations. I want them to be checked out properly, because this is a very serious allegation, because of course whenever there's a start there's a payment as well. So I just want to make sure that you understand he's not saying you, but he is accusing the GLA and he is accusing effectively your housing department.
No, sure, listen, I know these are serious points he's making. I'm not trying in any way trivialise them. That's why it's important to speak to the government, because it was a hostile government when we did this. We made the starts and we smashed the targets the government said. And the government, you can imagine, Generic and Gove would look for any excuse to try and trip us up. It was the government that signed off the 2016 to 2023.
But again, Mr. Mayor, they signed off the figures that your office provided. That's the whole point. All of what you say about the government could well be true. Let's imagine that is true, and you were in a bit of a argy-bargy with them. The point is, people are responding to figures that were produced by the GLA, and we expect to be able to trust the GLA. Huge sums of public money involved. You and I both know, whatever our political background, we have a real housing issue in London. It is our ability to solve them are based on the figures that are produced by your office. So I'm just asking, will you support my call for an independent external examination of these figures, and that your Deputy Mayor fully engages in the process?
Look, Chair, it's the first I've heard of it, so I can't agree to anything. What I can do is I'll take away what he said, because it's very serious, the assertions he's making. Let me take it away and get in touch with him in relation to letting him know what I'll do about them. I'll obviously read what he says, and feel free to send me what's been said, and I'm more than happy to get the Chief Officer to look into them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to be clear, I'm not making these assertions. I'm just having these assertions investigated.
Chair, could I echo, the member's been very careful, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure officers will appreciate that as well, because they can't defend themselves. But I will take away what he said and ask him to send me.
I accept that it's the first you've heard, so I'll give you that opportunity. Thank you very much, Chair.
Assembly Member Boff.
Mr. Mayor, why did it take so long for you to realise that the London Plan affordable housing targets were holding back developments in London?
They're not, and I've got figures here which show they're not. And it's really important that I have a chance to explain the progress we've made. So we saw between 2018 and 23, the number of affordable housing units that referred to me averaged 13,491 a year. That's a 31% increase from 2012 to 2017, before we had the target, 31% increase. But also the average affordable homes percentage granted in affordable schemes go from 25% before 2016 to 46%. And I, for some time, have been saying there's an issue in terms of the housing situation across the country, which is why we set up a task force 2 years ago, because we recognise the challenges coming. The previous government failed to help us. This government is.
And you've accepted the Housing Secretary's declaration that 35% of nothing is nothing. I mean, they were his words, not mine. So he didn't have confidence in your delivery. Will you go lower than 20% if this temporary measure doesn't work?
It's quite important to explain what the Housing Secretary was saying in relation to the perfect storm consequences. And I've set out what the perfect storm are. We need to kickstart, particularly those schemes that have stalled, 43,000 schemes that have stalled. So this is a temporary emergency measure in terms of the changes that the government and I have set out. It is our intention, once we're outside this perfect storm, to return to having proper targets and having fast-track systems. That's what the threshold is about, to avoid the delay caused by viability and so forth, to try and get homes built in London. We have, it should be said, Chair, built more council homes, more affordable homes, and had more completions over the last 9 years since the 1930s in terms of completions and the 1970s in terms of council homes.
In terms of there being a bureaucratic problem with development in London, why are you seeking to reduce the threshold for GLA involvement in housing schemes to 50 units compared with the current 150? Isn't that just an additional bureaucratic overhead?
It's the opposite. It's to ensure that those developers who want to build homes in boroughs, who are having a borough that's got a NIMBY approach, can know that if the scheme has 50 or more homes, they may all call it in and work with the communities who are in desperate need of housing and the developer to get homes going.
So you don't trust the boroughs?
I don't trust some boroughs, no, particularly the Tory ones.
Yeah. Oh, I think that Liberal Democrats are not immune to that criticism either. So you don't trust the concept of devolved borough government, bearing in mind that they're the ones who do the approvals of housing and the ones that are delivering the housing that London needs?
No, I've seen the figures and I can read them out for Bexley, for Bromley. Some of these figures are shocking, and I'm happy to read them out. I mean, Havering's not much better. And so we need to make sure that these boroughs get going. And so the message to developers is if you've got a borough that is saying no to a good scheme and your scheme is 50 homes or more, come to City Hall.
It's no wonder, is it not, that the boroughs are in revolt and want to take over more power over GLA decisions when they have a mayor who so distrusts local councillors that he wants to take powers away from him. But thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased, well, I'm not pleased, but I'm pleased the public can now see how you distrust borough government.
Very important, Chair, to put on record my respect for great councillors who are doing a great job for their communities. I just wish all of them worked as well as some councillors are doing. It's a coalition of the willing. Those boroughs that are doing a great job, we will support them in terms of the City Hall Development Investment Fund. We will support them in terms of the Mayoral Development Order powers. We will support them in relation to the Land Fund. Those boroughs that are doing a bad job, the message is quite clear. Either you start giving permissions for the homes your residents need, or we'll take over.
Well, let's see what happens in May, because after that there won't be many Labour councils left.
Chair, I can wager a bet there'll be more Labour councils in London than Conservative ones.
Stability of the Met in the name of Susan Hall has been withdrawn. We're moving on to fossil fuel advertising and air pollution in the name of Assembly Member Russell.
Can I thank the member for her excellent question? I take the challenge of cleaning London's air and tackling the climate emergency extremely seriously. As a result of my direct action, London is now leading the way among global cities on air quality and sustainability. It's because of this commitment and decisive action that London met the legal limit for nitrogen dioxide in 2024 for the first time. This is nearly 200 years earlier than experts predicted. This progress follows bold measures such as expanding the ULEZ alongside record investment in cleaner transport. I want to thank the member for her support from the start of this policy. London has now more than 2,600 zero-emission buses on the road, the largest fleet in Europe, and over 400 kilometres of signed cycleways helping people choose cleaner, cheaper ways to travel. Revenue generated from advertising is invested into our public transport system, which helps reduce carbon by offering clean and sustainable alternatives to car use. Income generated from commercial advertising is therefore vital to fund operations and improvements so TfL can continue to run a safe, inclusive and reliable transport network and promote sustainable travel. Previous changes to the advertising policy on TfL, such as restrictions for high fat, salt and sugar foods and non-alcoholic drinks, were put in place using the nutrient profile model from the Food Standards Agency. There is no equivalent government standards that defines a whole high carbon category for advertising, making it difficult to implement a similar policy in a consistent way. We must also remember that it's not just TfL who has an advertising estate across London, and I would urge the Government and Advertising Standards Authority to consider issuing national guidance on this issue. TfL runs over 19,000 advertising campaigns in a year, with its media partners reviewing even more. It's worth setting out that the commercial adverts are not endorsements by me or TfL. They're paid-for messages that are individually reviewed against the TfL advertising policy and must comply with the Advertising Standards Authority's codes. There are therefore comprehensive rules around what adverts can and cannot run on the TfL network. TfL conducts all its business and revenue-generating activities to the highest ethical standards, whilst ensuring compliance with its legal obligations. TfL will continue to keep its advertising policy under review to ensure it remains effective and lawful, while protecting the vital revenue that supports public transport and sustainable travel across London.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, I get that TfL needs money, but your advertising policy was last reviewed back in 2019, and that was around the time that you made your commitment to net zero. And you have very clear policies in place, net zero by 2030, 80% walking, cycling and public transport journeys by 2041. You've obviously got your Vision Zero commitments, and you've done some really great work on reducing air pollution. Now, the car companies sort of across the UK are spending about 500 million a year. They can afford to do a station domination. They can cover a whole tube station in adverts, including the Gate Line, promoting the idea that business is persuading people to buy cars and to use cars, when we're living in a really crowded, dense city where, in the interests of keeping the buses moving, you need fewer people to be driving cars on the road. So I appreciate you saying the sort of the limits and the fact that you want to get the government to review the advertising codes. But do you think that you could actually is there not anything you can do to update TfL's advertising policy to support the targets that you are trying to meet?
Well, firstly, I mean, I've got incredible empathy, sympathy and agreement with many of the points she's making in relation to the issue of high-polluting vehicles. I'm not anti-car. I'm anti the emissions that some of these vehicles emit. We are in desperate need of national guidance from the government and the ASA. The reason why I say that is I've seen through previous experience the challenges we had with banning adverts that are high in fats, sugar and salt, the challenges we had with banning some of those drinks as well. The national guidance gave us really important certainty and addressed some of the practical difficulties. That's why we're seeking guidance. We do review this on a regular basis. I'm happy to go away and look at whether the TfL advertising policy that she refers to should be reviewed. Can I take that away and come back to her in relation to what more we can do to try and make progress?
That would be much appreciated. And if you have a look at the CAP code, which Rule 30.7 says, advertising must not encourage behaviour grossly prejudicial to the protection of the environment. Now, I think that might give you a way in and might be something that it would be worth having a proper look at.
Just to reassure, because she's an ally on many of these issues, as relation to fossil fuel extraction and environmental claims do go to CAP before they come to TfL, so that's already built in there. We make sure that happens. I think her challenge is can we go even further as a leader. And so I'm paraphrasing, sorry, I didn't mean to...
No, you're absolutely right. I was literally on a panel yesterday with Maria Borna-Brauer, who's the CMO of Vastraffic from Gothenburg's public transport system. She said that from their perspective, accepting advertising revenue from fossil fuel related products like cars would be hypocrisy. And she says allowing fossil fuel adverts on our vehicles or at our bus stops would undermine everything we stand for. So I'm calling on you as a climate leader to at least match the principles of a smaller city like Gothenburg.
So is she also against us taking revenue from them for the congestion charge and ULEZ?
Sorry, say again?
Is she against us taking any monies from car drivers?
The revenue for the congestion charge and the ULEZ, that is about reducing traffic. What I'm talking about are these adverts that are promoting the use of cars as being something that gives you freedom and convenience, etc., etc. You know, those are the kind of adverts that you need to be thinking about if you're going to meet your net zero targets and your other targets that you are committed to in your transport policy.
Just to reassure her, because I've looked into this for obvious reasons, I mean, less than 0.02 of our advertising revenue comes from this. I think it's between 0.01 and 0.02. So it's not an issue of finances, it's an issue of practicalities. That's why the national guidance would explain what the definition of an SUV versus a pickup truck, would set out what is a high carbon
Mr. Mayor,
product.
it's not very much
challenging.
money, so therefore you ought to be able to replace that with other advertising revenue, but I'm going to
As I've
leave that
explained,
here.
Chair, it's an issue of practicalities, which is why we're calling out for national guidance, but also for the Advertising Standards Authority to consider issuing separate guidance as well. That would really help us provide the clarity and certainty we need.
Assembly Member Georgiou.
Mr. Mayor, there's one organisation that wants to ban advertising for fossil fuels. This is a woke, nasty, neo-Marxist organisation of which you are co-chair, and that's C40 Cities. Millions of Londoners and I believe they want to ban meat, they want to ban cars, they want to overtax workers, they want pay per mile, they want to ban flights, they want to ban certain clothing, so I hope you keep your leather trousers in the drawer. They want to do all of these woke, nasty things in the name of reducing global emissions on the backs of British workers. I drive an electric car. Don't tell anyone. Shh. You know, I have solar panels on my roof. But surely there is a better way of doing this than banning absolutely everything and harming the lives of Londoners.
It's really, I'm left speechless. And I've been doing this for 9 years. Let me just try and respond to some of the points that have been raised by the member. Roughly speaking, half the world's population lives in cities now. That's going to be 65% over the next 10 years. Cities are responsible for a large portion of the emissions, and I think we've got a responsibility to address some of the challenges posed by, human-made climate change. I'm not a climate denier or a climate delayer. And cities can turn this crisis into an opportunity, for example. At the same time as we're reducing emissions, create good green jobs. Those solar panels had to be made and had to be installed. That electric car had to be made, as did the electric vehicle charging point installed. That is an opportunity to turn a crisis, climate change, into an opportunity, creating jobs that are good green jobs. And when I tell him that 90% of the C40 cities, more than 90%, are reducing emissions faster than the national governments. When I tell him that these cities in the last few years have helped create 21 million good green jobs, I'd assume he'd be proud that London's a member of C40 and its mayor is the co-chair of this great organisation, and I'm really pleased and proud to be working with C40 to make even further progress, for example, in reducing air pollution.
On that response, I'm glad that neither you or I, due to what C40 City wants, will be giving up our leather trousers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Assembly Member Polanski.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you for the work that C40 is doing. The Rosebank oil field is the emissions that are cumulative of 28 of the poorest income countries altogether. And next week, it looks like the government is going to make a decision on it. I agree with everything you just said. This is a climate emergency. We also know that jobs in North Sea oil and gas have over halved in the last 10 years. And there are lots of jobs waiting, particularly in London as well, in renewable industries. So what would be your message to Ed Miliband on this decision?
Look, without going into details of specific sites, I'm quite clear. Those sites that have licences already granted should go ahead, but no new licences should be given.
That's avoiding the question about Rosebank again, and we had this last Mayor's question time. Is it not hypocritical to have very, very good words on the climate crisis, but then when I'm asking you a very specific question about a very tangible oil field that this government are potentially going to extend a licence to that will cause catastrophic devastation, for you as Mayor of London not to take your role as a climate leader?
I'm quite clear in relation to retrospective decisions and forward-looking decisions. I apply that across the piece, whether it's as a lawyer or whether it comes to legislation. I can understand why, contingent upon those licences being granted, families, livelihoods, and communities have made decisions, and to unpick and undo that creates a level of uncertainty that is not good for anybody. But I also welcome the fact that, as we speak, the Secretary of State Ed Miliband is in Berlin trying to make sure that countries across the globe can try and reach agreement that will be meaningful and significant. And it's really important that no future licenses are given, and we make that transition. This jargon, just transition, what it's about is making sure we transition from fossil fuel to renewables. That means solar, that means wind, and yeah, that means nuclear as well.
I'd say the insecurity is a reliance on oil and gas, and it's not a retrospective decision that's being made literally on Wednesday around Rosebank. And Ed Miliband at the moment is trying to obstruct the Belém action mechanism as well. But anyway, we'll return to it, I'm sure. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, you will be aware that we're struggling with the sound system today. We're going to try to do it. It's echoing back, and we've tried to turn it up because we're not completely hearing everybody. So we'll try and do something in the next 10 minutes or so to see if we can improve it. We may not be. So let's adjourn for a 10-minute comfort break. Thank you.
Okay, so they're off for a comfort break at the moment, and we will probably end it there. If anything does arise, I will upload it. Right, thank you very much. Sorry, I'll turn the microphone up, it would help. Thank you everyone for watching. They're off for a break. If there's anything that does occur important, I will upload it. But much appreciated everyone for coming along and watch. If you go over to 2 Up, 2 Down, he's actually live streaming from outside City Hall where the Pink Ladies are having a protest. Okay. So if you go to 2 Up, 2 Down, I'll try and get Mary to put it in the chat because she's got a computer in front of, well, actually I could probably do it, but Mary's probably already on it. Go up, watch 2 Up, 2 Down. Go and say hello to him. He's filming the Pink Ladies protesting outside City Hall where this meeting was taking place. That'd be much appreciated. Apart from that, we're going to disappear now. Thank you, Mary, for that. We're going to disappear. I'll just put some sausages on and then I'm going to go shopping. All right, much appreciated, everyone. Thank you very much for taking time out, supporting the channel and watching. It is really appreciated. There you go. All right, no worries. Cheers, Kevin. Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much, Mary. And everybody else that's watching still. It's much appreciated all. And we'll catch you all soon if anything exciting crops up. All right, we'll catch you soon. Take care, all.